Right, so this is Big C. I'm Andrew Bedwell, and what I've always had a dream of doing is breaking the world record for the smallest vessel to cross the Atlantic. And so this is Big C, which will smash the world record for going across the Atlantic. The current record is 1.6 metres, and we're just over a metre long. So it stood for about 30 years. So hopefully we'll get the record, and I don't think it's possible to go smaller.
So how come it's 30 years since the last record?
It was back in September '93 that the record was broken, and so that's based out in with Hugo Varlin in Florida. But what we want to do is exactly the same route as he did, the northern route from St John's, Newfoundland, back to the UK, and effectively bring the record back to the UK, and on exactly the same route. So no one could say, you've done it in the wrong route, you've had support, you've done this. We're doing exactly the same. So that's the whole plan.
And you're a seasoned yachtsman already, aren't you? The last record you did, was that in a 24-foot boat?
Well, it was a 21-foot mini transat that I took up into the Arctic. So it was a prototype mini transat with canting keel and everything, and took that up into the Arctic, round Iceland, towards Greenland, through Denmark Strait and back home to the UK as well, just to raise money for my daughter's school. So now I've gone for a bigger project, but in a smaller boat. So I don't know what the next one is, because I can't go any smaller.
And what's the appeal of micro-yachting?
The appeal of it is, I just like the simplicity of things. I'm here at the boat show. I've got the option of staying in lovely hotels, I'm staying in my van. If the weather's bad at home, I'm quite often found up on the mountain sides. I'm sleeping in bivvy bags with my daughter. I just like the kind of unusual side of life. I don't like the luxuries. I don't need luxuries. This, obviously, you haven't got any of those luxuries. What more could I ask for?
And what does your daughter think about this?
I think the pictures inside say the best, because she thinks it's just incredibly brave. It's good for her to see that people have got spirit and people want to do things, and also it shows her that she should be able to get out and do things. There's a lot of people in the world, and we've spoken to a lot today, who say, do you know what, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. Fair play to you for going to do it. You never know, it might not work, but we're going to go as far as we can.
And I can see that the sail plan, it looks like you've got twin pulled out head sails.
Yeah.
Is that, again, is that a sort of typical thing of micro-yachting? You haven't got room for a mainsail or anything?
No, it's not so typical, but it's because the boat is dead downwind. Obviously, everyone going across the Atlantic, generally trade winds, southern route, northern route. We're doing the northern route because obviously, as we just said, but that is tried and tested. It works. It's simple. There's not a lot that can go wrong with it. As I said, we've got spare sail if we need to, but it's a simple system that works.
And how far have you gone on Big C so far?
Only initially, because obviously it's really difficult to get a boat that just goes downwind from a harbour out, then to get a boat to pluck it out and put it on the side and bring it back. So we've only done about 10 miles in it, but do you know what, those 10 miles are probably more than a lot of the other people who have attempted the record before, where I've got stories from Tom, who designed and started the build on this, and others as well, where they've literally gone to the quayside, put the boat in, and had to do last minute modifications and get it right, or semi-right, before they've just shot off. I've got stories of Tom being told from one place that he couldn't actually leave the harbour, so he had a bag full of rocks that he walked up and said to the guard, "Oh, can I just leave that? I'm just going to test my boat quickly." And then he disappeared off for the UK. So it's all a little bit unusual. You'll find that there's the more quirky people doing this kind of challenge.
And that's Tom McNally, is that right?
Yes, so unfortunately he died in 2017 because of cancer. He named the boat Big C because of the cancer side of things, and so we've obviously carried that on with it as well.
And he was a micro-yachter himself?
Not half, yes, definitely. He was actually slightly longer than that he broke the record in May '93, but he started designing. So he's the one who's done it before, he's the one who's designed the boat, he's the one who started building the boat. So we've got great confidence in the boat's design, and all we've done is actually brought it really up to date.
And obviously, I don't know what the sea state was like in the 10 miles that you've done, but it's, you know, you're thinking of those huge Atlantic rollers out there. Just how seaworthy is this boat?
Right, so seaworthiness, what we've done is we've made the boat so it's actually quite lightly ballasted, so it reacts to the waves really well. Big rolling seas, no issue at all, it will do. Obviously, when we know that we have got big breaking waves, the boat will still contain it. The whole hull is about 12 mil thick everywhere, so it is absolutely solid and designed for the job. So that is like a complete safety cell. That would be better than most big modern yachts that are quite lightly built. So small is actually sometimes better to be in a big sea state with. We see big container ships breaking up in the middle because they're on the peak and the trough and maybe on the peak of the next wave. This won't do it. And what we can do is we can actually fold the boat away. Fold the boat. We can take the outriggers up against the mast. So if we know that we've got big weather system coming through, what we can then do is we can actually basically put the outriggers up, get inside, get the harness on, get obviously the hatch down, and sit it out. But it's going to be like the best fairground ride that a lot of people pay for. They go to Alton Towers and all these fairgrounds and pay for it. So I'm going to have it for potentially the longest time ever if we get storms.
And if that happens, are you expecting it will invert and right itself, or
yeah. So the whole boat is designed. What we've wanted to do is, and what Tom wanted to do, is not to be too deep drafted, because it gives it a very, very odd motion when it's sitting in the waves. So this will roll, but because it's actually quite light, as soon as the wave passes, it will pop to the top. But also what it will do is it won't actually kind of stay inverted or anything like that, and it won't snap itself up, which is when big yacht gets knocked down, as the keel counteracts it and the mast comes back up. Quite often the mast goes as it comes out of the water. So this will be a lot slower. It's not going to be pleasant in there, but no real record attempt will be too pleasant, really.
And you've got 40 minutes of air once it's airtight, is that correct?
Yes, so it's about 40 minutes of air that we've got in there. So what we've got on the front, we've got two dorades that we can rotate around. So we have one into the wind, one away from the wind. And what we'll do then is we've got flaps on them. They're not on there at the moment, they're butterfly flaps, actually that way. So we can open them so the wind can pass through, and then when a wave hits them, they'll just snap shut. So we can actually manage the way that the air is getting in and out of the boat. I mean, obviously we need to be able to do that.
And in terms of communications, have you got satellite phone with you? Or?
Yeah, so what we've got externally, we've got a solar iridium edge. So what that's going to be doing is that's been used up into the Arctic and down in the Antarctic. And that's a very small solar beacon, basically. So that will be working itself self-contained. So that's going to be mounted on the deck. Then what we've got internally is we've got Class B transponder. Then we're going to have an AIS receiver, two separate units, so that if one fails, I always like to have as much backup for anything. So we'll have the AIS transponder, AIS receiver, VHF, fixed VHF, handheld VHF, and then obviously PLBs as well, and EPIRBs. So we'll have as much as we can in there. Obviously, everyone could have more, and you see around the stands and different companies are creating amazing products, but we are so limited by space, we can only put in what we can.
Yeah, and it's set up for downwind sailing. If there's a point when you find yourself on a beam reach or going upwind, can these sails be adjusted, or are they? No.
So upwind, it is never going to go. The boat too short. The way it is, we can't rig the sails to make it, or the outriggers to make it go upwind. So on anything other than downwind route, well, we've got 40 degrees either side of downwind. What we'd have to do is throw out the sea anchor. So that's where perfect conditions would be 60 days. In real life, it doesn't happen. So what we'll be expecting is to be more like 90 days, of which over the last 20 years we've modelled it, and it's worked out about 20 days of storms. So you will be sitting in there with potentially 20 days worth of storm in there, which is a bit of a challenge, but we'll be sitting on the sea anchor if it's against us, and sitting it out.
And I take it you don't get seasick?
No, I'm quite often delivering yachts with other people as well, and with Class 40s and things like that. So all the people that I deliver it with know that really, whenever there's something that's gone wrong, we delivered one a couple of months ago where we put in a few hundred litres of water into the aft crushed culprit and the electronics compartment. So there we were pumping that out, and Muggins gets sent down there to do it, and I don't get seasick doing that. Going round the Iceland, I had a rudder pintle brake, so we're down in the back of the boat in a little space about that by about that, with a ratchet just literally doing that, and I think it was for 9 hours. I've tried to forget how long it was to do, just to tighten up the boat, and I wasn't sick there. So, and obviously we're still sailing at 15, 18 knots, something like that. So yeah, so it should be all right with that side. But you never know. All people get seasick at times.